Hello, welcome everyone. Can you hear me? So, welcome. If you if you can hear me, please let me know in the chat. Okay, I'll just wait for 1 minute to let people arrive and then we'll get started. Today's live is about how to protect your screenplay, and I will be going into the Thunderball case and also what measures you can take so you can protect your material regardless of if it's a novel you're writing, a short film, or a feature, or something else. That doesn't really matter because the steps are really similar. Of course, I'm a filmmaking channel, so my focus is on screenplays, but basically it's all IP in the end. So, what is an IP? That's an intellectual property. I'm sure you've heard the term. And let me just briefly introduce myself for anyone that might be new here. My name is Oriana. I'm a filmmaker, writer, director, producer from Switzerland, and I've been making films since I was a teenager. Then I went to film school in Munich in 2000, from 2008 until 2000. I graduated in 2012. Let's put it that way. And I spent 2 years out of those 4 in Munich, studying at the Bavaria Film Studios, and I've learned a lot over there. And I also wrote my bachelor thesis on whether to write your own screenplay or to adapt it. So that also is also important for this conversation, because if you were to adapt a previously published work of like a story, doesn't matter if it's from a comic, if it's a novel that you're adapting, a short story, whatever, if it's been previously published, you have to secure the rights for adaptation, and usually those rights are valid for a certain period of time. So you've got an option on this work of art for like 2 years or 3 years, and you pay for that option. And if within those 3 years you don't make your own version of it, then you either have to renew this option or it goes back to, you know, the original. Hello, welcome. Can you hear me? Thank you. So it it goes back to the original copyright holder. I mean, of course, this like the original copyright holder never uses the loses the copyright, but it's still, you know, your right to adapt it also is no longer there unless you renew your option. So that's adapting a story. Then the other thing is if you're writing your own material, which we will be focusing on that. But of course, Thunderball will also is you know based on Ian Fleming's character. So with my bachelor thesis, I actually did 3 categories for works of fiction for films. So one is an original screenplay, which means basically, to put it very simply, you are just writing down, you know, what you go through in everyday life, basically your diary, and you make a film from what you've been through in your own lived experience. That would be an original screenplay, right? Then we've got a second category, which is based on previously created characters. For instance, the Bond series, all those, you know, all those series like I think also Star Wars, all the sequels, all those series basically fall under that category. To get back to the Bond, which is what we will be tackling today. So, James Bond, the series of 25 films, I believe, right now. Some of them are based on the individual novel by Ian Fleming, but all of them are based on the character of James Bond and some others by Ian Fleming. So it's never completely an original screenplay because the character of James Bond was created by Ian Fleming, and that will never change, So that would be a bit different from an original screenplay. And then we've got the adaptation. So you have a book, a short story, a short film, and you base your film on that. So that would be called an adaptation. And as I already mentioned, you have to secure the rights for that. Now let's go into the Thunderball case. I made some notes here. So why is this relevant? So first off, Ian Fleming published a novel called Thunderball in 1961 under his name and only his name. This is important because what happened before that? At this point, Ian Fleming had already been writing the Bond novels for some time, and he actually was out of ideas in 1961. So he was already a successful author, and he had to produce a novel a year, bring out a new book every year, and that created a lot of pressure for him, and that's why he made this mistake. Because in 1959, so 2 years before, he wrote the screenplay, so for the film version of Thunderball, but not just him. He wrote it with two others, Jack Whittingham and Kevin McClory. And that's where the trouble started. So this screenplay did not go into production right away, and it was put on hold. And then in 1961, when he had to come up with ideas for his next novel, he figured, well, I'll just look at this material from the screenplay that I wrote some years ago. And the problem was he did not ask those two co-writers for permission to use this material. He did not credit them. So the novel is just under his name, not under those other two names as well. They are never mentioned. And also, he did not ask for permission. He did not even let them know that he was doing this. So, all in all, not how you should go about this. And I don't know why he thought he would get away with it, but McClory only heard about Fleming's plan to release this novel weeks before it came out. So he managed to get hold of an advance copy of the novel, read it, and was appalled and was shocked because he recognized that this story was the story of the screenplay he had written with Ian Fleming and Jack Whittingham 2 years before. And he was shocked that Fleming pretended like it was his own idea without anyone else contributing to it. So McClory was determined to put a stop to this. He tried to have the publication of the novel stopped, but he was not successful in this. Jack Whittingham also fought in the beginning, but then, due to the costs of lawyers, he did not pursue this legal case because, of course, it costs a lot of time and money. But McClory went forward to court, and so there's a years of legal battles that went on in court, and this is ultimately why the Thunderball film is not the first film, but it's with Dr. No, From Rush with Love, Goldfinger, number 4. Yeah. think it came out in 1965. And it's also not the only film version of this story, because McClory actually did win partly in court. He was given the film and TV rights to this story, and that's why in 1983 he released Never Say Never Again, which he initiated this project, and he was able to actually get Sean Connery on board as Bond again. So all this to say, like the Bond producers, they also went on to fight in court over years, over different parts of this whole thing, and they were not allowed to use the concept of Spectre until after, I think, 2013. They bought everything that McClory had already owned from the court case, because he passed away in 2006, and so the Bond producers bought all those rights, and that's why they were able to make the film Spectre, which basically evolves around this whole topic, and now they can use all of those things. But it was a long battle in court. It cost a lot of nerves, of time and money, and we don't want to end up there. We don't have the time or the money to do that, right? So how to do that? What can we learn from this? Before you show your script to anyone, always make the gut check. So always think to yourself, what does my gut tell me? Is this a good idea? Can I actually trust this person, or is there something that I am feeling is off, that's not good, not feeling right? Then listen to that. That's number one. Number two, before you show a copy of your screenplay to anyone, also, like, do not send out an entire screenplay. I would never do that. And if you even brainstorm ideas with someone about your story, make a contract. Like, what is this person's role that you're bringing into the project? Why are you bringing them into the project? Are they a producer, or are they co-writing? Are they contributing to your script, which would be called a contributing writer, which is the version I had on All In. I was the main writer, and then my colleague was the contributing writer, so we specified that in a contract. It could also be a co-writer. There's different credits, like story by, story idea by, screenplay by, or just you just have the whole thing that written by, and then you've got two names, which would be you both are equal co-writers, so, or three of you. So you just have to specify this. And of course, this also means if you're not the sole author of a project, you have to consult your co-writers when it comes to, what happens to this story now, what moving forward, like there's this decision. Are we changing the script again? Who's going to produce it? Who's going to direct it? Who has how much power in deciding what goes on? you know? So that's really important. Just put it in writing always. So that would be number one. Yeah. And then record your process from idea to finished screenplay. Save emails, take notes of meetings. So this is all to say that you can prove, who had the idea first. It's also in case of there being any problems down the line, you want to be sure that you've got your process, what's going on, what you did at what time. So, you have all this in writing. Also, if you have meetings with someone in person, take notes during the meeting and then also send the notes of the meeting to that other person. This is also to ensure that you're talking of the same thing, you're on the same page. Any questions up to this point? Welcome. Introduce yourself. One person in the chat, hello. And the other person, can you introduce yourself? Do you have a question? And if not, that's fine too. So yeah, take notes of the meetings, and as I said, never send out entire scripts. Now, further things you can do before showing your script to someone, like if you know I need to show this script to like a producer, you know, at some point, if you don't want to produce your own film, you're going to have to trust someone that you think might be the ideal producer to read your script. There's no way around that. So you can have them sign an NDA. What is an NDA? It's a non-disclosure agreement, and it just says, you know, this is confidential information and you're not allowed to talk to anyone about this project, about the contents of the story, or sometimes even that you were even working on something with this other person. You know, there's different levels to this, and usually there's just a big fine in there. So if people break this agreement, they have to come up with a large sum of money, which is supposed to scare them into not saying anything. But I want to be clear here. There are no guarantees. Like, I've also heard stories, and there's a YouTube channel out there. It's called Film Courage. I can really recommend this for any filmmakers that have been on the journey for some time, like myself. And there's great interviews on there. And one guy, I don't know his name right now, but he actually told the story of that his screenplay got stolen. So they really, he submitted it somewhere. I don't know exactly how that all played out, but he just submitted it somewhere and he never heard back. And he just thought to himself, okay, I guess I'm not selling this screenplay. So usually if you just write it by yourself and then you approach people, that's called a spec script. And yeah, you just submit it somewhere to a production company that you trust. Always trust. Look for that gut check. So he did that in some shape or form, and then he just heard about it. By some coincidence, he heard that someone was making a movie and the story sounded familiar to him. And basically, the film was already shot and everything, and someone had just changed the name of the writer because it was his screenplay. But he said he learned from this. He did the wrong thing because he actually told them before they released it that he knew that this was his script, and they just let the whole film disappear. It never came out. But that also meant for him that he did not get any compensation. And he said for the next time, if that were to happen again to him or to anyone he knew, he would advise the following. So if you, like worst case, if you think, you know, I know this story and I think they are making a film out of my screenplay, he says wait until the week of release and then confront them with all your proof. And then basically, if there's already trailers out there and the release date, and you know it's 1 week away, they cannot just silently make it disappear, but they would have at least to pay you some money, which is not ideal, but it's better than nothing. So that's what he shared. And it's kind of sad that we have to think about it that way, but it's important to have thought about, you know, what is my way forward. Hello, Free Wind. I'll read your comment. I was working on a TV series with 2 writers. It was my idea, and we were working on it for several months, probably 6 sessions of 2 hours. We flushed out ideas, and COVID hit. I want to have total control. I was thinking of paying them $500 each and getting them to sign a release. What do you think? Hi. mm, well, it's not easy. I mean, of course, yeah. I mean, you can offer it to them and just see what they will say, and of course, put that in writing that they will sign over the rights to you. So was there any producer attached or anything like that? Because like it depends on the budget, I would say, if they will go for $500. Okay. Um, you could just tell them you wanna take it somewhere else, and they can have the credit. Like it also depends if they are established authors or not. Okay, so basically it's your idea. They just helped you. And did you pay them any money? It's kind of a gray area, I would say. Okay. I think I would just offer them, like, I mean, you also made a short film for each of them. Like, it's technicalities, like, if it's your idea, okay. But did they contribute something to the idea, like a character, like a big plot twist or anything? Or dialogue, or how exactly did they help you flesh out the idea, would be my question, because that determines if they did add anything creative, anything you can copyright to the whole thing or not. you know that's what it comes down to. Yeah, so that it did add a little bit of stories of episode. Yeah, I think your approach is a good one. I don't know them personally. I don't know how they roll, but I think um, just saying, okay, I want to continue with this idea, and do you even have any claims on it? And if you don't, then just sign away the rights now, and this is the compensation I can offer you. Yeah, they always are in the beginning, but that's a problem, Like, I do have a story that I regret a little bit. Like, I was working on a novel with someone, and yeah, it all started out great, but she never wanted to have a contract. And now I kind of regret that I didn't just put my foot down and say, but I need one. Because it's sometimes with friends, it's even more awkward to bring up the subject of we have to put it in writing, but that's exactly what you have to do every time, because otherwise you just end up in situations like this where you don't know, it's kind of a hairy situation. It's not clear. There's no clarity. The expectations might differ a great deal, and one person wants to move forward, the other doesn't, and that's why I always put it in writing. So, free wind for you. I think offer them those $500 if you think they will go for that, or you can even start lower. I don't know them. I don't know what their circumstances are. I just say, okay, I want to continue with this project. And what would it take for you to sign over any claims you might have? Of course, it's also, you might also, they also say, let sleeping dogs lie. But it's a risky thing, because if they get wind of, if that turns out to become a success, then they might come knocking and you don't want to go there. So I think $500 is a reasonable amount. What kind of credit should I give them? Sometimes if it gets developed and I find a producer with money to fund the project, they might not like other writers. Yeah, I mean, it's also complicated, do you get along? Do you actually want to write with those people? And the producer always has the same question: do you own all the rights to this story, to this screenplay? And your answer has to be yes. That's why I would say, if you want to write it yourself, again, you don't have to wait for anyone if you just do it yourself. So yeah, make them sign something. That's like my recommendation. And I think it's a lot of money. You can also say, if we turn a profit, I will give you $500. You know, you have to like not seem like you have a ton of cash you just can throw at them, because you know they might try to milk you for that. So yeah, it's not easy. I think again your gut check will help in determining if that amount is too much or not. Yeah, I mean, it's yeah, so it's really important that you don't go past this now, that you've settled this first in writing, as I said, and then you have all the freedom to develop it. Yeah. And what do you want to share a log line, or is that too early for you? For anyone here, I would love to do some log line reviewing further live. And while we're all here, thank you for being here. And I will be going live every other week, every other Tuesday. So next Tuesday there will be a very casual, unedited video by me, because I've decided to not edit as much anymore, because I don't have the time to spend 15 to 20 hours on a video that gets 20 views. I'm very grateful for everyone that does watch my videos, but I just want to be more, you know, in the moment as I am now, because that's more authentic to me. And then, yeah, 2 weeks from now, I will be going live again. Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. It's also a vulnerable place to be to share your logline, I know. So, for anyone here that hasn't introduced themselves, I encourage you to do so. I'm really happy that you're here. I will just briefly recapitulate what we've been saying. So, even Ian Fleming made the mistake of thinking, well, you know, I have this big name, and I'm interpreting now. Like, I need an idea. I've actually developed a project some years back. I have this story that I haven't used for a novel yet. I can just turn this into a novel, which is fine by itself, but he ignored the fact that it was not his own story to share as he pleased, because the two other people were also um, the authors of this story. They developed the screenplay together, and then he just did not ask those two people for permission to use the story. He did not credit them, he did not compensate them, and that's a no-go. And even at the level of James Bond, you know, this went to court. It took ages, it took decades in the end until everything was settled. So we always want to put it in writing, and you can register your screenplay now. Where do you register your screenplay? There's a lot of different sources out there. People claim, you know, back in the day, when I was in film school, people that they told us to mail, like print out your script and mail it to yourself and never open it, and you have the postal stamp as proof of when you wrote that. um I mean, that's kind of an old-fashioned way to do it, and it's not 100% effective in court. It does not hold up, I was told. So that doesn't really work. Emailing it to yourself, well, with all those hackers out there, I'm not really sure. Um, and also, um, registering with the Writers Guild of America is something that you read a lot, but it's not effective for all the different cases. So the most effective thing that I found online was to register with the Library of Congress. So submit your screenplay there, and you can say it very specifically, who did what, you know, who gets which credit, and so on. Yeah. So that would be the tip that I can share. Again, listening to your gut instinct. And of course, if you have a story and you have a feature idea, an idea for a feature screenplay, you even have your feature screenplay, you could do a short version of that. And that way, if you like put it on your YouTube once you've done the festival run, everyone can see when that was posted. So that's one way to at least ensure that this idea that's part of the short is protected. So your IP can also be like, if you have a podcast, then the whole concept of your podcast becomes your IP, your intellectual property. So that it's worth thinking about that. Getting back to your question, Free Wind, what is the minimum credits I should give them? I don't think you should give them any credit. It's not enough to sit in a brainstorming session once or twice or over a period of a month when you've been, you're gonna take it further to the next level. If I would give, if they really are uh, insisting on having a credit, first let them suggest what they are imagining, and maybe based on a story idea by, and then all three of your guys' names. That's what I could imagine. Or also, you have to look those up. Yeah, contributing writer would be what I could imagine, because written by and then all of your names, that's not fair because you're doing most of the work. So I would not go for that. I'm no expert legally. This is not legal advice. This is just things that I found out that I live by, but I'm not a lawyer. I'm not giving you legal advice. This is just, let's chat about the topic. So hope I could help you with that, Free Wind. It's a tricky thing to handle, and yeah, again, I don't know those people. I don't know, how to handle those. Like it's always the human factor comes into it as well. Okay, any more questions? I also thought about speaking of copyright, there's like so many aspects to it. When I was doing in my last video, I shared my writing routine for writing my second draft of my feature in 6 hours a week over 45 days, so over 6 weeks. And in there, I talk about that I had 4 actors that were basically doing table read with me, so of course they had to have the script. And I was terrified before doing this because I did not know any of those 4 actors before this project. So I just did an open an ad online looking for actors, doing a casting. And before the casting, I never send out full scripts. I just sent out 2 scenes per character so they could prepare. I think that's fair. And then as soon as they got to the casting, I had them sign an NDA. I already explained what that is. And of course, you cannot be 100% sure. And one precaution I also did is I did not email the scripts. I just handed them to them printed out, and they left it with me every time. So for the rehearsal, they just had the script printed out, and then when the rehearsal was over, they gave it back to me. So they were not allowed to take it with them home with them or away. So that's one precaution I took. And of course, that meant also that they would not be able to prepare dialogue in advance or anything. But I was okay with that. It was just I was like, it's so early in the process, and this is like my baby, so dear to my heart. I don't want to take any chances. And up to this day, I still think, those are trustworthy people, and they really contributed so much to this story. So it's a give and take always. Yeah. what do you feel comfortable with? But at some point you have to share your story in order for it to get made. So you have to get over that anxiety and can I trust anyone? And yeah. Also, screenwriting contest is another one where I think you have to be careful. I almost fell for that. So the reason why I did this sprint in April was because initially I had planned to submit to a screenwriting contest, and then I kind of questioned that. So I am really grateful that I did the sprint. I have a second draft now and so on. And the deadline worked wonders for me because, of course, I was very productive. But in the end, I think, you have to think about, why do I want to submit to this contest? What is my goal? What do I want to get out of this? And if it's just, I want to hear that it's a great story, of course, that's always nice. But or do you want to find a producer that way? Do you want to sell it? For me, I don't want to sell my screenplay because I want to, not just the screenplay itself. I want to direct it, so it's more complicated. And I'm not ready for it to go to market because it's not finished. So that's why I just, and also I heard some shady things about this contest. I'm talking about the Stage 32 platform, and I don't want to, it's just my personal impression was that, I just didn't feel right to submit it. So that's why I didn't. So again, always listen to your instincts. They know best most of the time. Talking about that, it's also true that if you've been procrastinating, if you've been thinking about doing something but not actually doing it, your mind, your brain will rebel if all of a sudden you end up being productive and doing the thing. So that's normal, and don't fall for that. Like your inner critic, just don't listen to it. We all have it, but that doesn't mean we have to listen to it and feed into it. Okay, any more questions or requests for what the next live should be about? Let me know in the chat. Thank you for being so active, Free Wind. And where are you guys tuning in from? I know Free Wind is from the US. I know Cornelia is from Switzerland. Who else is here? Do you have any questions? Would you like to introduce yourselves? Yeah, thank you for being here. Okay. I think I'll wrap it up here. I have to make sure that my baby goes to sleep. um, And as always, just comment down below what you found helpful and also what you would like to see from me next time. If you haven't done already, check out my latest video about the screenwriting routine. If you want to get to work and you don't know how to find the time, this is exactly the one for you. And the other one I can recommend is my 180 days roadmap, because we're already halfway through 2026, and if you want to make a film this year, this roadmap will show you exactly how to do it. Thank you very much for being here, everyone. Have a nice evening or day wherever you are. Where I am, it's already 9:40 p.m. So I'd say good night, and I'll see you next time. Thank you very much for being here. Bye bye.